Have you ever wondered why your heart had to shatter before peace arrived? Why everything you loved slipped through your fingers before something better came along? That pain, you felt it wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. When Allah breaks you, it's never to destroy you. It's to rebuild you stronger, purer, and closer to Him. Sometimes the blessing you're praying for can only fit in a heart that's been emptied first. And that's exactly why Allah allowed it to break. Brokenness is the beginning of sincerity. Sometimes Allah allows the heart to shatter not to punish you, but to peel away the layers of pride, ego, and distraction that covered it. When everything falls apart and you're left with nothing but tears, that's when the soul becomes soft. In those moments of brokenness, sincerity awakens. You're no longer trying to impress people. You're no longer running from pain. You're just turning to your Rabb with nothing but your raw, honest heart. We often don't realize how much our du'as are filtered by our desires until life breaks us. Then suddenly the dua is no longer about dunya status or image. It's just, Ya Allah, help me. That simplicity, that desperation is sincerity. True ikhlas is born not in moments of comfort, but in the furnace of hardship. That's where your faith becomes real. That's where your voice trembles not for show, but because the pain is real. And so is your plea. Brokenness removes the illusions. You stop pretending. You stop acting like you're in control. You stop reciting empty words. You start speaking from the soul. That's why some of the most powerful worship comes from the most shattered hearts. When Allah breaks you, it's often because He wants to hear your real voice, the one that calls Him. Not because you're taught to, but because you need Him. A broken heart doesn't mean you're weak in faith. It means your faith is being refined. Allah doesn't leave those He loves in ease all the time because comfort makes us forget. But pain reminds. It realigns, it strips away everything fake and forces us to turn inward. And that's where sincerity begins, when you meet your true self and you realize how deeply you depend on your Creator. When life humbles you, you pray differently. Your sujood becomes longer. Your eyes begin to weep. Your heart begins to tremble, not out of habit, but out of haqq, truth. That's what Allah wants. He doesn't want your perfection. He wants your truth. He wants you as you are broken, messy, unsure, but sincere. Because sincerity is what reaches His throne, not polished appearances. Some people found Allah only after everything else was taken from them. The relationship failed, the job disappeared, the friends vanished. And in that emptiness, they discovered the one who never leaves. That's why brokenness is a mercy in disguise. It clears away what distracts, so you can finally see what matters. In your lowest place, you discover your highest calling. Surrender. We ask Allah to soften our hearts. And sometimes He does it through the breaking. The same way a seed must crack before it grows, the heart must sometimes break before sincerity can bloom. Don't curse the season of breaking. That was the moment your soul became real. That was the place where your dua rose straight to the heavens unguarded, unfiltered, and truly yours. There's a level of worship that can only be reached through pain, not because pain is holy, but because pain makes you present. It silences the noise. It silences the ego. It silences the world. In that silence, you whisper His nama not out of habit, but because it's all you have. That's sincerity. And that's why Allah sometimes allows the heart to break. It's the start of real connection. Allah does not want a rehearsed version of you. He doesn't want your dua to sound like a speech. He wants your heart, even when it's trembling. Especially when it's trembling. He wants you to cry. Not because it's dramatic, but because you finally realize no one else can heal this pain. That realization is sincerity. And that's the beginning of transformation. We fear brokenness, but in the eyes of Allah, brokenness is a bridge. It's what takes you from heedlessness to presence, from arrogance to humility, from depending on people to leaning fully on your Lord. You may walk into the hardship confused, but you walk out of it closer to Allah. That's the power of brokenness. It breaks the false attachments so your soul can attach to Him. Don't rush to fix what Allah is still breaking. Let the cracks reveal what's hidden. Let the pain purify what pride tried to cover. Some of the most sincere people are those who've been shattered because in their pieces they found their prayers, they found silence, they found a closeness to Allah that comfort never gave them. And they wouldn't trade that sincerity for anything. If you've been broken lately, know this. It's not the end, it's a beginning, a sacred one, where masks fall and truth rises. Where the words, Ya Allah, come not from your tongue but from the very depths of your being. This is sincerity. This is what Allah loves. And this is where the most beautiful du'as are born inside, broken hearts that still believe. Hardship reveals your true dependency on Allah. Hardship has a way of uncovering truths we never knew were buried within us. When life flows easily, we often forget how desperately we need Allah. But when the ground beneath our feet begins to shake, our illusions of control crumble. The comfort we thought we created turns out to be a gift we never owned. In that raw moment of confusion and pain, we learn we are not self-sufficient, we never were. It's in those late night cries, when no one answers your call, that you finally raise your hands in true desperation. Not out of routine, not out of culture, but because there's nowhere else to turn. That is when Allah hears you the loudest, when your voice is not dressed in pride, but soaked in surrender. That's the kind of dua that breaks through the skies. When everything you leaned on falls, Allah is showing you that nothing sustains you but Him. People may disappear, plans may fail, wealth may vanish, but His mercy doesn't. And when you're left with nothing but faith, you realize that's all you ever really needed. That is the depth of dependency hardship forces you to remember. Sometimes you only find how strong your need for Allah is when you're drowning in weakness. The limbs fail, the mind falters, the heart aches, and yet something in you still turns upward. That turn against all odds, against all feelings is where Iman lives. And hardship is what brings you there. You may not recognize it in the moment, but trials are Allah's mercy cloaked in difficulty. They strip away the distractions that dilute your prayers. They erase the false securities you built around yourself. And what's left is something beautiful, a soul that is fully aware of its need for its Creator. That awareness is the first step toward true submission. In hardship, we stop saying, I've got this, and start whispering, Ya Allah, I can't do this without you. That shift isn't a defeat, it's a spiritual victory. The more you lean on Him, the stronger you actually become. Because the strength that comes from tawakkul is far greater than the illusion of self-reliance. Sometimes Allah puts you in a situation where even the people who love you the most cannot help you. Not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to see that His help is near. And when His help comes, it often comes in ways no human could offer. It comes with wisdom, with peace, with healing you didn't even ask for. The dunya teaches you to be independent, but Allah teaches you to be dependent in the best way. Not weak or passive, but fully aware of your limits and His unlimited power. The test is not just surviving the hardship, it's realizing who carried you through it when you couldn't carry yourself. Each time you've been broken down and still found the strength to make sajda, know that it wasn't your strength. It was Allah giving you enough light to crawl back to Him. That crawling, that seeking is beloved to Him. The struggle is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you've remembered where your soul truly belongs. If you've ever felt like your heart was too heavy to keep going, and yet you still whispered, Alhamdulillah, you've tasted the sweetness of dependence. That kind of praise birthed in pain is purer than 1,000 praises born in ease. Allah loves that sincerity. He draws near to the broken-hearted who call on Him. Through hardship, Allah reminds you that no one loves you like He does. Because no one else sees every fear, hears every silent dua, or knows every scaran still remains. Every moment of despair is an invitation to connect deeper, not to run away, but to run to Him with everything you have left. So when life shatters your sense of control, remember, you were never meant to carry it all. You were meant to submit, to rely, to let go. And when you do, you will find something extraordinary. Allah never left your side. He just wanted you to see that He was the only one holding you all along. Pain cleanses what was never meant for you. Pain often feels like a punishment, but in Allah's design, it's a purification. He removes what weighs down your soul, even if your heart is still attached. The loss you faced wasn't to harm you, it was to cleanse you from what was never meant to last. Sometimes, the thing you cling to most tightly is the very thing that blocks your growth. So Allah, in His mercy, takes it away not to leave you empty, but to make room for something better. We beg Allah to bring us peace, but forget that peace sometimes begins with pruning. The way a gardener cuts back branches to help the tree grow stronger, Allah trims what no longer serves you. You may cry over what's been cut, but what remains is healthier, purer, and closer to the fitrah He intended for you. Pain becomes the blade, but it's wielded by the most merciful. Sometimes the people we lose were sent only for a season, not for a lifetime. When they leave, it feels like your soul has been ripped apart. But in truth, Allah is redirecting your heart. You didn't fail. You just outgrew something your soul no longer needed. The ache you feel is growth happening in real time, even if it hurts to see it. We often mistake comfort for goodness and pain for harm. But Allah reverses that lens. What is painful may be purifying you. What is easy may be deceiving you. So when He removes what you thought was good, it's not because He wants you to suffer, it's because He sees what your heart cannot. And He loves you too much to let you stay bound to something that stunts your soul. Heartbreak humbles you. It makes you fall into sujood, not out of routine, but out of true desperation. That's the kind of connection Allah desires, a heart emptied of false attachments, ready to be filled with light. What you thought was a breaking was really a cleansing, washing away the layers that kept you distant from your Lord. Sometimes we keep begging Allah to bless something He's trying to remove. We can't see the harm in it, but He can. He sees the arrogance it feeds, the sins it nurtures, the distractions it causes. So He removes it. Not to cause pain, but to preserve your future. What feels like deprivation is often divine protection. Pain teaches you what comfort never could. It wakes you up. It forces you to reflect. It shows you where you placed your trust and whether that trust was misplaced. Every tear that falls carries away something you were never meant to hold on to. And when the tears dry, what remains is something lighter, softer, and more sincere. We are quick to attach ourselves to people, plans, and outcomes, but slow to let go when they're no longer serving us. Allah knows how tightly you hold on, and He also knows what you're capable of becoming if you release it. So He sends pain, not as punishment, but as a gentle push toward the path He wrote for you. If you've ever lost something you thought you couldn't live without, and yet you're still breathing, that's a sign your soul was never dependent on that thing. It was always dependent on Allah. He removed it to remind you that your strength never came from the creation, but from the Creator. Pain breaks the illusion of permanence in this dunya. It teaches you that everything here is temporary except your relationship with Allah. The love that left, the job that ended, the dream that collapsed, all of it pointed to one truth. Nothing stays except what is for His sake. And that is enough to build your life upon. What you lost wasn't yours to begin with. It was a gift on loan from Allah. And sometimes He takes it back to purify your attachment, to cleanse your love, and to redirect your heart to Him. When that realization sinks in, the pain transforms. It doesn't disappear, but it becomes purposeful. So the next time something leaves your life and you're left grieving, remind yourself, it left because your soul is being realigned. What was removed is not a sign of Allah's anger, but of His care. He is cleansing you for what's ahead. And what He's preparing for you will never require you to hold on to what He asked you to let go of. Your du'as in difficulty are more precious than gold. There is a certain dua that only escapes the lips when the heart is in pieces. It's not rehearsed. It's not polished, it's raw and trembling. And Allah hears it more clearly than any eloquent phrase. The dua of desperation is not just heard, it's cherished. Because that broken voice carries a level of sincerity that comfort can never produce. When life is smooth, our du'as often become routine. But hardship strips away the mask and reveals your true voice. It makes you beg not just for relief, but for closeness to Allah. That's when your supplication pierces the skies. It's not just a request anymore. It becomes a declaration of your helplessness and His infinite mercy. In the stillness of the night, when no one sees your tears and your soul aches with silent pleasure, those du'as are more valuable than gold. The Prophet ﷺ said that your Lord descends to the lowest heaven in the last third of the night asking, "Who is calling upon me that I may answer him?" That call isn't ignored. Hardship turns the believer into a caller. Suddenly the one who was distracted becomes deeply present. The one who barely prayed now weeps in sujood. The struggle refines the soul, but even more, it beautifies the connection between you and your Creator. Every hardship becomes a bridge to divine intimacy. Sometimes Allah places a barrier in your life just to hear your voice again. He knows your heart was drifting, so He allows difficulty not to crush you but to bring you back to Him. When your dua becomes consistent in hardship, He turns His divine gaze toward you, and that moment alone is worth everything you've endured. Dua in hardship isn't just a request for change, it's an act of worship. It's you surrendering to the qadr of Allah while believing in His mercy. It's the most vulnerable and most powerful moment a believer can live. When you fall into sajda with nothing left to give, Allah gives you what no one else can. The tears that fall while making dua are recorded by the angels. The pain you pour out to Allah is not in vain. Each whispered plea in the darkness is stored with your Lord, waiting for the perfect time to unfold. Nothing is lost in His sight. Even your sighs are heard. In difficulty, we often think our dua is too weak or too broken to be accepted. But that's a lie. Shaitan feeds the heart to make you quit. Allah loves the dua of the broken because it's real. It's not prideful. It's not mechanical. It's the voice of a servant who knows they need their Lord. The Prophet Job, alayhi salam, was tested with illness, loss and isolation. But his dua in the depths of that suffering is recorded in the Quran. Indeed, adversity has touched me, and you are the most merciful of the merciful. Short, honest, humble, and Allah answered it with healing and restoration. The greatest du'as aren't always the longest. They're often the ones whispered between sobs, with shaking hands, and a heart that has nowhere else to turn. In those moments, you're not just praying, you're surrendering. And Allah never turns away a heart that truly surrenders to Him. If you knew how close Allah comes to you when you are in pain, you would never complain again. The moments of your weakest dua are when you are spiritually strongest, because they're born not from habit, but from deep awareness of your need for Him. That is where true strength begins. We chase gold, success and relief, but none of those things last. Dua, however, lasts beyond this world. Your whispered prayers today echo into your eternity. And sometimes the answer isn't in the change of your situation, it's in the change of your heart, made possible by the dua itself. When Allah delays the response to your dua, it's not rejection. It's either protection, preparation, or elevation. Every unanswered prayer is still answered in a better way, at a better time, or in a better form. But none of them are ignored. Allah is Al-Mujib, the one who responds. When the Prophet ﷺ lost his loved ones, was rejected by his people, and felt immense sorrow, what did he do? He raised his hands. Even when the pain was heavy, he didn't stop making dua. That's our sunnah, to pray even when hope feels small. Because hope in Allah is never misplaced. You may not always see the results of your dua immediately, but rest assured, Allah is already rearranging your life behind the scenes. He's moving people, redirecting paths, softening hearts, and placing blessings in your future that your eyes haven't seen but your prayers helped shape. Even if the only dua you can make is, Ya Allah, help me, that is enough. Because Allah understands what your heart cannot verbalize. He knows the story behind every tear, every pause, every moment you hesitated. So don't worry if the words aren't perfect. The sincerity is what matters. Dua is a proof of your belief in Allah's mercy. The moment you raise your hands or whisper His name, you're declaring, I believe you can fix this. That is not a small act, it is an act of ibadah, of faith, of courage. And Allah loves the believer who continues to ask even while struggling. So, the next time you feel like you have nothing left but dua, know this, you have everything you need. Because dua isn't the last resort, it's the first weapon. It's the rope that ties you to the most powerful, the most merciful, the all-knowing. And that rope, when held onto sincerely, never breaks. Allah breaks to build something greater. Sometimes what feels like a breakdown is actually a breakthrough in disguise. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, allows certain things to fall apart, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you into someone stronger. The heartache, the job loss, the betrayal, they aren't punishments. They are divine tools of transformation. Allah doesn't break you to abandon you. He breaks what was never meant to stay. He removes the distractions, the false dependencies, and the fragile plans that would have harmed you in the long run. You may cry over what's gone, but one day you'll thank Him for what He replaced it with. In life, we cling tightly to things we think we need, relationships, status, comfort zones. But Allah sees the weight they put on your soul. So He removes them, sometimes painfully, to make space for something purer. What He builds in place is always more stable, more beautiful, more lasting. Think of a seed. Before it grows, it must break open in darkness. That breaking is not the end, it's the beginning. Your breakdown moments are like that. Allah allows the shell of who you were to crack so that a more faithful, humble version of you can emerge. You may be asking, why did Allah take this from me? But the better question is, what is Allah trying to give me through this? When He takes something, it's never subtraction, it's divine exchange. You lose the temporary to gain the eternal. You lose comfort to find closeness. Look at the stories of the prophets. Yusuf alayhi salam was thrown into a well, separated from his father and imprisoned unjustly. Every break in his story led to a rise. Allah was shaping his character, his patience and his rank. Your story may be similar in ways you can't see yet. It's hard to believe in better when you're sitting in the rubble. But remember, Allah never leaves something broken unless He plans to build something higher. The pain is a sign that something is shifting. The sorrow is a signal that your heart is being softened for deeper wisdom. When a glass breaks, we call it shattered. But when the heart breaks in Allah's hands, it becomes reshaped. Softer, kinder, more sincere. That kind of brokenness isn't a flaw, it's sacred. It's where ego is removed and worship becomes real. It's the moment you stop performing and start surrendering. There are lessons you can only learn when life breaks you. You start to see the world differently. You detach from illusions. You prioritize prayer, reflect on your purpose, and understand that strength doesn't come from control, but from trusting the one who controls everything. The world sees broken things as damaged, but Allah uses brokenness as a starting point. He doesn't need perfection to bless you, He needs sincerity. He needs you to show up in your weakness, your fear, your confusion, and He promises to guide and uplift you through it all. Sometimes Allah breaks your plans before they break you. What you were pursuing might have looked good, but He saw the trap ahead. He stopped you not to frustrate you, but to protect you. The detour He gives may be painful, but it's filled with hidden mercy. The pain you feel today could be the very thing that humbles you into a beautiful state of dua. Allah knows that when your heart is aching, it calls out more sincerely. And that dua, born from tears and desperation, can open doors you never imagined. You may feel delayed, but you're not denied. The breaking point isn't where your story ends, it's where your soul awakens. It's the moment you realize you were relying on everything but Allah. And that's when true strength, the kind built on tawakkul, begins to rise. Allah broke the comfort to rebuild your character. He broke the attachment to bring you back to Him. He removed what was hollow to give you something solid. So while your heart may ache, know this, it's not being punished, it's being prepared. Even gold is broken, melted and burned before it shines. The believer too is tested, pressed and cracked before they rise in purity. Allah is not breaking you to destroy your spirit. He's refining you for something greater, something you would have never reached in ease. Brokenness is where arrogance dies, where humility grows, where prayers deepen, where the soul finds refuge in Allah alone. You may feel like you've lost everything, but in that moment you're actually finding the only thing that ever mattered, your connection with your Rabb. Years from now, you look back and realize that the breaking was a gift, that it tore away the false, the harmful and the unnecessary and revealed the resilient, the faithful, the sincere. That version of you couldn't have emerged without the pain. So don't curse the breaking. Don't question the wisdom behind it. Trust that Allah never subtracts without planning to multiply. What He rebuilds will not just be better, it will be rooted in Him. And that, above all, is where real peace, strength, and purpose are born. What was taken was never meant for you long term. What you lost was never random, it was removed with wisdom. Allah doesn't take something away from you unless it served its purpose or was never written for you to keep. Sometimes, the very thing you were begging to stay was the thing silently pulling you away from your growth. It hurts when something slips from your hands, especially when your heart was attached. But Allah doesn't allow a loss unless it brings a gain in the unseen. What's taken from your life might be exactly what was blocking you from stepping into who you're meant to become. You might not understand it now, but every closed door, every faded relationship, every missed opportunity was divinely timed. Allah isn't just managing your present, He's protecting your future. What you thought was meant forever may have only been meant for a chapter. The dunya makes you fall in love with things that were never built to last. But Allah in His mercy separates you from them not to punish you, but to purify you. You were not created for attachments that dim your light. You were created for a purpose that reflects His light. Letting go doesn't mean you failed, it means you're being redirected. What Allah removes, He replaces. And what He replaces is often something your heart wasn't even prepared to imagine. You lose something you wanted, but gain something you truly needed. Often, we fight to keep what is slipping, not realizing it's Allah doing the untying. He's breaking the rope, not to leave you hanging, but to set you free. Free from illusions, free from dependency, free from what was never meant to reach your akhirah with you. You weren't created to carry what breaks you. If something was meant for your peace, it wouldn't drain your soul. Sometimes Allah removes what you begged for, not out of cruelty, but out of deep care. He loves you more than you love what you lost. When a blessing is truly for you, it stays with ease. It brings barakah, not confusion. It draws you closer to Allah, not away. So if something left, perhaps it wasn't a blessing, it was a test. And your greatest success is in surrendering what was never yours to begin with. Your soul knows when something isn't aligned. But we silence that voice with hope, attachment and fear. Then Allah steps in, not to crush you, but to cleanse you. The detachment is mercy. The removal is His way of calling you back to what's real and everlasting. Think about the people who left, the plans that fell through, the goals that dissolved. If they were meant to complete your journey, Allah would have kept them intact. Their absence is not a mistake. It's space being made for what actually belongs in your life. We often call it heartbreak, but sometimes it's heart protection. Allah knows what would have delayed your growth, harmed your faith, or consumed your energy. So He ends it early even if you're not ready. Because His knowledge sees what your emotion can't. Patience becomes your superpower when you trust the one who's writing your story. You stop chasing what left and start preparing for what's coming. And when it arrives, you realize why Allah didn't let you settle for less. Every soul that walked away, every door that shut, was part of your purification. This dunya is not the destination, it's the preparation. And sometimes, what's taken from you is just another layer of dunya being peeled off your heart so you're more ready for the eternal. When something fades, it doesn't mean it failed, it means it fulfilled its role. Not every relationship is meant to last. Not every plan is meant to bloom. Some are just messengers that bring a lesson, a wake up, or a redirection and then leave just as Allah willed. You'll never find peace in clinging to what Allah has removed. Peace comes when you release it back to Him. Trust that the one who took it is also the one who can replace it. And when He does, it will come with clarity, stability, and divine timing. Don't let loss define your faith, let it refine it. Allah's love is not proven by what He gives or takes. It's proven by what He preserves for you in the unseen. The things He removes may be protecting you from harm you'll never know. And that is mercy beyond measure. Some chapters must close so that new ones can begin. And though it stings to say goodbye, it's in that space of emptiness where faith fills in. You begin to see that what was taken wasn't the end of your story, it was just the clearing of the stage for something greater. So next time you lose something, whisper this to your heart. It was never mine to keep. If it was meant for me, it would have stayed. And if it left, then Allah has written something better. That belief alone is what carries you through the storm with peace. The blessing comes after patience and tawakkul. The path to your blessing is often carved through stillness, not striving. It doesn't always arrive when you want it, but when Allah knows you're ready to receive it. Patience is not about waiting with frustration, it's about trusting with peace. And tawakkul is not passive, it's active reliance that says, Ya Allah, I've done my part, now I surrender it all to you. Many people rush the process and miss the purpose. The blessing you're chasing may be delayed, only so your soul can be refined first. Sometimes the delay isn't punishment, it's preparation. Allah is perfecting the conditions of your heart before placing something precious in your hands. And what He gives after you've trusted Him always carries barakah. Tawakkul means letting go of your illusion of control and holding on to the certainty of Allah's wisdom. Even when nothing is going according to your plan, everything is still going according to His. That belief transforms anxiety into calm and pressure into prayer. It allows you to walk through uncertainty with certainty in Him. When you make patience your companion and tawakkul your anchor, life becomes less about outcomes and more about obedience. You begin to care less about when it will happen and more about who you're becoming in the wait. This shift opens the heart for the real blessing, nearness to Allah. We often think the blessing is something material, a job, a marriage, a dream fulfilled. But the greater blessing is what happens inside of you during the test. You become softer, more humble, more trusting. You start praying deeper, seeking sincerely, and living with more consciousness of Allah. Every prophet was tested with delay, loss or hardship, but it was their unwavering tawakkul that led them to greatness. Yusuf was imprisoned before he was honored. Musa was cornered before the sea was split. Maryam felt alone before Isa was born. In every case, patience and trust opened the gates of divine relief. When you're in the middle of a storm, the shaitan whispers that Allah has forgotten you. But faith replies, my Rabb is closer to me than my own jugular vein. The storm may rage on the outside, but tawakkul calms the inside. And that inner calm is a miracle in itself. Your journey might be long and the nights might feel endless, but no tear is wasted. Allah sees your silent prayers, your secret struggles, and your exhausted hope. He is not ignoring you. He is aligning everything for the right moment. The longer the wait, the sweeter the blessing. Tawakkul doesn't mean you don't try. It means you try, then you trust. You make effort, then release the outcome. You take the step, but you don't panic about the result. You work with excellence, but your heart is not chained to results. It is attached to the one who controls them. Real patience is not just waiting, it's staying kind while waiting. It's praying while hurting. It's giving when you feel empty. And tawakkul is continuing even when logic says give up. Because you know your Lord is not limited by means or timelines. He can change everything in a single command. Sometimes Allah hides the blessing behind hardship to see if you'll trust Him when it doesn't make sense. Will you still praise Him when the doors seem locked? Will you still pray when the results seem delayed? That's when your patience is not just a virtue, it becomes a form of worship. Your test is never bigger than your Rabb. The weight you carry is not heavier than the strength He can give you. So stay patient even when you're tired. Stay grateful even when you're waiting. Because Allah promises that He is with the patient and His company is the greatest blessing of all. When you finally receive what you've been waiting for, it won't just be a gift, it will be a testimony, a sign that your sabr was seen, your du'as were heard, and your trust was not in vain. And you'll realize the blessing wasn't late arrived exactly when your heart was ready. The beauty of tawakkul is that you find peace even before the result. You no longer chase outcomes, you chase Allah. And with Him, you realize that sometimes being held is more important than being helped. Sometimes what you needed wasn't the thing you prayed for, but the nearness that grew from it. Think of the seed underground, it looks buried, but it's really being prepared. The same goes for your journey. Your delay isn't denial, it's development. Allah is growing you in unseen ways. And when you bloom, it will be with roots strong enough to hold the weight of the blessing. Tawakkul teaches you that success is not about speed, it's about submission. Even if everyone else is running ahead, you remain grounded in your trust. Because you know the one who holds your rizq will not let you miss what's written for you. And what's written will reach you, even if it travels through mountains. The world will tell you to hustle harder, but the Quran tells you to rely deeper. The most powerful move you can make is sujood. The most reliable strategy is dua. The most productive state is tawakkul. And the most blessed path is the one walked with patience. So let your heart rest in this truth. When you are patient and you trust Allah, you are never losing time. You are investing in barakah. And when the blessing finally arrives, it won't just answer your dua. It will make you whisper, Ya Allah, this was worth the wait. What felt like the end was really just the beginning. Allah didn't break you to harm you, He broke you to open you. To cleanse your heart of attachments that were blocking your elevation. Every tear, every loss, every moment of confusion was clearing space for a deeper connection with Him. So if you're still healing, know this, the blessing is already on its way. Just keep walking with patience, trusting the process and holding tight to Allah. Because when He blesses you after the breaking, it's always greater than what you lost.